Do trainers make so little money? Well, what's your guys' experience been?
In a sense, if we're talking, it's all relative, right? I mean, what is a lot of money to you? What is a lot of money to somebody else? It's really, truly all relative to what your goals are, what you want to accomplish. Do you want to be a full working trainer at all times of the day? So in my opinion, trainers that work at box gyms, it is absolutely not worth the income that is presented. I think that for the amount of time that you spend in, the amount of education that you put into yourself, and to your craft, and that even means the time you spend working out yourself, right? So all that time is you working on your craft to better your education and your knowledge on these things. And so when somebody is paying you, anywhere between $25 to even, I'll say $40 an hour, which is probably on the higher end of things, to me that is absolutely not worth it in working with a regular gym. Now, in my opinion, the only way to be successful financially in the world of fitness is to do it on your own. And whether that be starting a business, whether that be a traveling trainer, an entrepreneur trainer, a online coach, or even an influencer on social media or YouTube or whatever, I think that is your best chance at making an actual profit off of this living, because when you're living in for somebody else's business, right, a large percentage of that income that you could be making is going straight to their pockets and that gyms.
All right, so Aaron's going to lose all of his employees tomorrow. Tyler, how about you, sir?
All right. Well, I'm gonna blow Aaron's mind a little bit because, all right, so the box gym idea is great because while I was interviewing to go back into a box gym, I was like looking at like what was going to be the pay scale. So, depending on if you're in California, like we all are, or if you're somewhere else, if you're in New York or if you're in Minnesota, of course, pay structure is going to be a little bit different, right? $40 if you're up in Idaho because of, how expensive it is to live up there. That's a good freaking paycheck actually coming into somebody for an hourly cost, especially for something that, yes, it's tasking, but it's better than, I don't know, being a busser. Well, when I was up in Idaho, here's the thing that blew my mind when I was trying to interview, because this is during the pandemic and I was like trying to get out of the landscaping stuff, is I interviewed for a spot and they said that they're going to pay me $8.50 an hour for my downtime. Like that's their minimum wage. And I was just like, under $10? Like,
Wow.
Never in my lifestyle would I ever. Can you guys match me at somewhere around like 23? And they're like, whoa, all right, there, big time. Like, yep, training is never gonna happen up here for me, at least at a gym. So 24-hour fitness, a place that's a regularly known box gym. When I was looking at their pay scale, $57 an hour for when you're in a training session, which that's a pretty good price. I worked in construction, and when I was working for my brother and I was doing labor for 8 hours a day, I was making $32 an hour.
So I'm gonna say yes, per session that is a decent amount to be paid. But the problem is you're required to spend those extra hours there making minimum wage and balance those two out from when you're actually in session to not in session. And now all of a sudden that average becomes like $32, $33 a session. So I believe that if you're out on your own making even $57 is fine, because all that extra time that you're going to have is to be building your business, to be building your name, your profit. So that's the only thing is like you have to spend all those extra hours at such a low pay scale. It's like, does it really, it equals out to such crap.
Well, think about the $57 an hour guy that's going out and doing it on his own. Well, he's got a 90% chance of failing across the board. And independent trainers are all factored into that $47,000 a year. So you're talking about all the guys that do own the studio gyms. Like, we're all included in that $47,000 a year. So I do think we have to understand that the average person that starts a business, one, fails no matter what, but in fitness, you have a higher likelihood of failing. And even if you do succeed, making past $100,000 is a very rare thing in the fitness world. Like how many trainers do you guys know that make six figures?
Absolutely. No, I agree 100%. I think that, again, it's really just, do you want to build something for yourself? Or is there growth, right? Like, if you're making $57 an hour, great. If that's your limit to how much money you're capable of making, are you okay with that, right? For me, it's a hell no, right? Like for me, I want to be making not just 6 figures, 7 figures. I'm not going to be making that, doing a $57 an hour gig where that's going to be the most I'm going to be paid. And so for me, that's where things go on to getting out on your own, because there's so many avenues in our industry, whether it be online, whether it be social media, whether it be OnlyFans. No, I'm just kidding. Whatever you decide to do, right? There is a lot of ways to make money out there on your own. Maybe stay in that box gym, but think about other avenues of that can help expand your reach.
The baseline of the question though is the personal training field going to develop the wealth that's necessary? And it depends on where you want to do, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody who runs a small business, as you've known, there is heavy risk that goes behind that. Liability for being sued, you're constantly having to run advertising. There's more of a headache than a guy like myself, who I've gone to now this gym that's, a very nice, good gym, but I'm bringing an energy that's beyond, just an average trainer who's going to go in and, he's going to spend his open hours going, man, I'm only making this much, versus me who's like, yeah, I'm making $20 an hour during these hours, but my schedule is going to get filled. I know I'm going to fill that schedule. I know I'm going to cap out, and I know where my career path is going to go, and I know exactly where I want to get. And if I can get to, where I want, and that's going to probably cap out at 100,000 or 120K based on the figures I've kind of laid out with this gym. I'm like, if I get to 120K for me, that's a boost in lifestyle, man. That's great. That's good living for me. I could sustain. I can do everything I want to do. My goals are just to help people, not just in the gym, but in the AA program. So if I can do this and get to that point, yeah, I'll reconsider and ready for that next level step of that
Correct.
7-figure.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's all relative. Once again, it's kind of all the choice of how you want your lifestyle to be. But even more so, I think that you have to decide what your risk to reward is. I think that's a big thing, is if, like you said, based off of this gym, they're going to fill your schedule basically for you. They're going to bring in the members. You're not going to have to do the dirty work to get them. You're not going to have to spend the money to get them. You're not going to be liable if one of them gets hurt. So again, it's that risk versus reward, right? Because for me, it's the opposite, right? I want to do all those things so I get all of the benefit from it. And my gym gets to see the growth of what the hard work that I'm putting in versus basically living out somebody else's dream of building their facility. So again, it's all relative. It really just depends on what your short-term and long-term goals really are.
All right, let's go ahead and reframe it back towards the newer trainer, more kind of going that aspect of things. Because we do kind of have to think about it that, again, the average person isn't going to start their own gym. They're never going to own a facility. The average person is never going to make above 6 figures. The average person doesn't have this long, drawn-out career path. Like, they started working on a gym not because they have this idea of learning and education and multiple years of experience like Tyler has. They're going in there and they have this dream, this idea that they're going to walk in there with big old biceps and get a bunch of clients and be able to make their millions. So I think we have to kind of frame the conversation towards that type of person. It's like, to me, we start talking about my world and spending an hour in a box gym. Sounds like hell. Like that, the idea of me going back in that direction, I would really rather hit my hand with a hammer. So I think we kind of have to take our own way of looking at things and the way that where we're at right now, which we're all pretty far along in our career.